Singaporeans are feeling the impact of the global rise in food and fuel prices. At the start of the budget debate, members of parliament asked what the government can do to help Singaporeans. Here's a summary of the concerns raised and the finance minister's response on how to tackle the issue.
So even if you give or take...
To help mitigate the rising cost of living, especially for the middle-income families, I would like to urge the government to consider lowering or even waiving the foreign domestic workers levy for deserving families.
I'm thankful that the Minister has listened closely to suggestions to improve the cash flow problems of the low-wage workers at a time of rising cost of living. The increase of workfare quantum by 50% this year and payment of the entire increase in cash is proof that government empathizes with the ground.
The Workers' Party calls upon the government to reduce the GST rate by 2 percentage points from the current 7%.
The cost of living issues, and in particular, whether we should reduce the GST. We're all concerned about the increased cost of living, and we know it hurts in particular retirees and those with very low incomes. The Grow and Share package in this year's budget provides more than what is required for low and middle income households to tide over this temporary period of high inflation. We are providing more than required to offset the entire increase in cost of living that low and middle income households will face this year. And I'll give you some examples. Take a retiree household living in a 3-room flat, because that's the type of household that will be most hurt by a rising cost of living. Not working anymore, so they have to rely on their savings and their flow of CPF savings, as well as some other benefits, some other support they may get from their children. Their expenses are expected to increase by about $400 this year for the whole year. 2-person household living in a 3-room flat. They will receive more than 6 times this amount in transfers. So expenses going up by $400, the amount they're receiving through the Grow and Share package is about $2,750. More than 6 times the increase of cost of living this year. True also for other types of households. If you look at a larger low-income household, husband and wife with 2 children, they will receive about 5 times the increase in their household costs this year. That's the second bar I'm going to show. Costs going up $650, they will receive about over $3,000, about 5 times more. And then you look at a middle-income household, 3-generation middle-income household, they will receive about 1.8 times. So even if you give or take, you're talking about a full offset for the cost of living this year. And this is before, I've only included the Grow and Share package. This is before including the permanent changes we've implemented this year. Removal of the radio and TV license, revision of the public assistance rates, various other permanent changes, improvements in enhanced bursaries and so on and so forth. I've only included the Grow and Share package, which is one-off. So, and I should mention, by the way, that contrary to Mr. Loh Tia Kiang's assertion that the PA rates, public assistance rates, have lagged inflation, we've in fact increased the PA rates by 21% since 2009. For a single-person household, it has increased from $330 a month to $400 a month. But as Madam Halimah Yacob has emphasized, the lasting solution is not these transfers that we are able to provide because we have a good budget this year. The lasting solution is the most important part of Budget 2010, which is to raise productivity and incomes, so that come what may, we can grow incomes on a real basis, on a purchasing power basis, over the next 10 years.
The early morning commuting crunch.
It's always very crowded. Provide more buses for the passenger, that would be great.
More bus and train services are coming your way, but how far will the new measures go in cutting waiting times? Will off-peak discounts on fares help? How about a redesign of the roads or buses? Making public transport cheaper, better and faster. This week's Talking Point, tonight at 10:10.
It's the biggest quake to hit Japan in a century, causing significant damage and triggering 10-meter-high tsunami warnings. Stay tuned to Channel News Asia as we bring you the latest updates on the situation with our Japan Bureau Chief Michio Ishida. And log on to our Facebook page, Channel News Asia Connect, to post your pictures and comments.
Mr. Loh Jiak Kyung dismissed all that we are doing to help families offset the higher cost of living this year. And I've shown you the bar chart. It's more than a full offset. He dismissed it. And more importantly, he also had nothing to add on the longer-term strategies that we have introduced and reinforced through the budget to strengthen our economy, raise productivity and raise incomes, to strengthen our society for the future, develop long-term care for the elderly, substantially enhance bursaries for lower income as well as middle income students, and lower income taxes for the middle income group. But he proposed reducing the GST by 2 percentage points, from 7% back to 5%, and waiving GST for basic necessities. That was his solution. Let me explain why this is the wrong solution and would only involve giving more money back to wealthier groups while taking something away from the poor. First, the bulk of the GST we collect, in fact, comes from higher income groups and foreigners. It does not come from the lower and middle income groups. Based, in fact, on our 2010 collections, the bottom 20% of Singaporean households contributes only about 4% of all GST paid. The bottom 20% contributes 4% of all GST paid. The first 60%, in other words, from the lowest end to the 60th percentile of households, the lowest 60% pays about 16% of all GST. So the lowest 60% pays only 16% of GST. Furthermore, the GST is a core part of a fiscal system that provides substantial transfers to the lower income group, including workfare, which we introduced together with the GST, including the other structural transfers, bursaries, healthcare subsidies, housing grants for the low-income families, and so on, and also including special transfers, which we do from time to time to help the lower and middle income groups, as we have done this year. So when we add it all up and see what happened with the introduction of the GST, how much more have they had to pay in GST, and what additional benefits are they getting as a result of us having made this shift in our fiscal system, let's have a look. When we raised the GST from 5 to 7% in July 2007, first we introduced a substantial package of GST offsets to help take care of the higher costs for the lower income group as well as the middle income group. So for a household in the bottom 20%, the annual increase in GST paid was itself more than fully made up for by the GST offset package. Annual increase in GST paid $370, so per year this is the amount they'll have to spend extra because of the extra 2% GST. But the GST offset package per year was $910. On top of that, we introduced permanent programs to help the low-income groups, including workfare. So when you add it up, this bottom 20% household, if you include both the GST offset package and the permanent programs, would have received 5 times their increase in GST costs. The offset package itself was adequate to offset the increase in costs they pay, but of course the offset package is not forever, so we can look at the permanent package as well when the offsets finally run out. And the permanent package is far larger than the increase in GST costs that they pay. It will also be the wrong solution to have different GST rates for different items, such as to have a 0% rate for basic necessities. Exempting basic necessities from GST is an extremely inefficient way to help the poor. It sounds good, but but it's an extremely inefficient and I'd say counterproductive way of helping the poor. Firstly, even for the bottom 20% of Singapore households, low-income households, the essential items, they're commonly cited 8 food items, rice, salt, sugar, edible oil, soy sauce, vegetables, flour, fish. You can add or minus if you like. But the essential food items comprise only 6% of their total household expenditure. Because even for our bottom 20%, they're not living in a subsistence economy. They have other expenditures, and you only have to walk into a 3-room flat or a 2-room rental flat and look carefully at what they have. There'll be some who are very poor, but most of our households in the bottom 20% are not just spending on essential food items. If we then include not just the essential food items, but all uncooked food items, the total expenditure is still 15%. The total they spend is 15% of their total household expenditures on all uncooked food items. Secondly, even when we look at these basic necessities, the bulk of the GST comes from the better off groups. They consume more of everything, not just luxuries and the latest stereo sets, but basic necessities as well. It is therefore much better to collect GST on essential goods from everyone and use the resources to support the poor directly. There's much evidence, too, from other countries that a multi-rate GST, exemptions on some items, lower rates on other items, a multi-rate GST ends up raising business costs significantly. And we know what that means. It means costs being passed on to consumers. In fact, the OECD did a recent study, a comprehensive study based on the experience of a whole range of countries that have GST and VAT systems, and concluded that a broad-based and flat-rate GST system is the best policy choice. Its reasons were exactly the same as ours when we decided to go for a flat-rate system.